Final Fantasy VII is no longer my favorite Final Fantasy. That honor now belongs to Final Fantasy XVI. Hello, all you fan-freaking-tastic people. I'm MBDuset, and I want to talk to you about my experience with Final Fantasy XVI. I feel that when it comes to the Final Fantasy franchise, it is the greatest masterpiece that Square Enix has ever made. So spoiler alert, there will be some for several Final Fantasy titles. I am going to be talking as if you've already seen those games. This is not going to be an explanation of the stories in details, just my experience from my point of view of playing those games. This video is based on my own opinions, preferences, and what attracts me to consider something being a great game. I want to begin by talking about how I got into the franchise, starting with Final Fantasy VII, and how my thoughts evolved on the franchise itself until I played 16. Because I feel that my history with Final Fantasy definitely influenced my opinion on 16. I witnessed my first of the franchise, Final Fantasy VII, when I was at my friend Stefan's house, aka Hex Jester. You've probably seen him in the comments or streams. He's the reason I got into this franchise to begin with, back in 1998. I'm pretty sure it was 98. So the game was out, it was several months. And I was watching him play, and I remember clearly, even to this day, he was on the boat that was going from Junon to Costa del Sol, and he was about to face Genova. Like, he was at the dialogue with Sephiroth. But I was interested in playing it myself, so I got it for the sweet, sweet PS1. Oh, back in the day, man. I still have my copy. The book is missing and the case is a bit damaged a bit. I moved a lot since I owned that copy, so it's seen a lot of boxes. Yeah, here it is. You can probably see the crack there. Yeah, there's a crack there, and yeah. Oops. The case is, yeah. And I don't have the book anymore. I have no idea where the book went. I probably lost it a really long time ago, but I kept my copy. And actually, I think this is the second copy because I think I lost my original one. So when I bought it again, it was the greatest hits disc. But anyways, so after starting playing it, I fell in love. It was my first Final Fantasy game and RPG itself. It was my introduction to both the franchise and the genre. And I've played all of them ever since. I even went back to play some of the older ones, like 1, 2, I think I tried 4, 5 a little bit, just to see how it was. And after 7 though, I did not play 11 or some like the non-main numbered ones like Type 0. And maybe I should cut and try them out at some point. I don't know. I think it's a bit late for 11 though. And I love this franchise and other games that Square Enix has made too, like Octopath Traveler. 7 was my favorite from the get-go, with 10 and then 12. Those were my top 3. With all the extra content that we got with 7 too, the movie Advent Children, the prequel Crisis Core, and then the sequel Dirge of Cerberus, 7 was just amazing. Stories and characters, the music. It was definitely my favorite world. Until 12, my view of the franchise was just great. I couldn't wait to get more from Square Enix. And then came my first disappointment, 13. 13 felt like a huge downgrade from the other ones. The only upgrade was the graphics, and the music was as good as the other ones. When it came to exploration, the story, the characters, the battle system, I just disliked it. And from what I hear, it's close to 50-50 that either people think it is the greatest thing since sliced bread, or that it's the worst of the franchise. So then 14 came out, and I only played like vanilla Realm Reborn. I haven't played any of the expansions at all. But at the time I started playing, or came back to it, focusing on my career, having my family, it's just really hard to commit to an MMO. And with the flop of 13, and thus Versus 13 being scrapped and rebranding into 15, I thought I had something to look forward to. And 15 was amazing. Like, I thought it was the best one that they had made yet. Unreal from what I thought about 13, and then finally 15. Perfect. It was great. Until you reach the point of the story where you know it was unfinished. It was rushed. And then it got just boring as fuck. With the worst final chapter, boss, and ending out of all of the games. At this point, I was just beyond disappointed with Square Enix. So when they announced that they were working on Final Fantasy VII Remake, finally something to actually look forward to. My favorite in the franchise, my favorite RPG, the game that got me into all of this to begin with, getting remade completely. I went in with low expectations though. With how I saw Square Enix making games in the last decade or so, I was afraid that this was just a money grab and they were gonna crap on it. But did they deliver? I give Remake 9 out of 10. It's glorious. It's not perfect, but damn great. Nostalgic. And I love the extra to the story they added. They took what was great from 15's battle system and made it even better. The music was banging. I couldn't believe we were gonna get 2 more of these. So again, it just strengthened my love, and that Final Fantasy VII was my favorite of the franchise, and brought back my faith in Square Enix. When it comes to the Final Fantasy VII games specifically, I had something to look forward to. At this point, it's hard to believe that 7 is no longer my favorite. That to me sounds just unreal because of my views I had on the game for 26 years of it being my favorite and nothing being able to beat it. 10 came close, 12 came close, but I was just so loyal and I love 7 so much with everything we had. So many games, the movie, everything. And 16 just came in and completely crushed it all. I finally got a PS5 in November of 2023, simply so that I can play Rebirth when it comes out. In the meantime, I wonder what I could play because I wanted to spend time playing the PS5 so that I get my money's worth from investing on such a high-priced item just for one game. And so Hex Jester, once again, hey, you can try 16. That's right. There was a new Final Fantasy game that came out, and I completely forgot about that because I was, one, not interested in it at all or learning about it because it was PS5 exclusive. I did not own a PS5, and quite honestly, other than 7 at this point, I don't think I really cared about Final Fantasy games more than that would have come out afterwards. That's how low my opinion of Square Enix dropped. Like, my disappointment in the franchise, except for Remake, started in 2009. That's a long time of just like, meh. So, when I say I knew nothing of 16, I knew absolutely nothing. I went in as blind as much as a blind man can see. I had no idea what the story was about. I did not know what characters were in there. I did not know what kind of battle system they created. I knew absolutely nothing. And the reason that I'm mentioning this is because I want you to appreciate that everything that I experienced playing 16 was all new to me. My reactions are completely pure. And while I was playing, I completely avoided all videos, including tutorials, just to make sure I do not see any spoilers. At first glance, when you start, the game looks great. You get a glance of the Phoenix versus Ifrit fight, so I was like, is this how summon fights are gonna be? Hot damn, this is gonna be great! And see what I mean by not knowing anything? I call them summons, like a noob, because I didn't know. Then you see the awesome scene of Shiva fighting Titan. And you're like, damn, the designs are good. The graphics are great. You then experience the battle system, and I felt like they took what was great of 15 and remake and made it even better. More on that topic soon. But in the first 2 to 3 hours, I was hooked. I liked what I was seeing. We meet Clive, the main protagonist. When you first meet Clive and then you learn of what happened when he was 15, seeing the brutal murder of his brother, the feelings I had for him was pity and sympathy. I wasn't really hooked into his character yet, but the deliverance of what the story was going to be about him wanting to avenge his brother, was done well. I got hooked into that plot from the get-go. That dialogue right after witnessing Joshua's death.
I'll kill you! I'll fucking kill you!
Like, hot damn, that was something else. That voice acting, yo. It's when you learn he is Ifrit. Holy shit, what? That was the turning point that made me extremely interested and shocked in the story. When he transformed, my mind was racing.
He's Ifrit? We've been Ifrit all along?
I was theorizing in my head like crazy. And the realizations of what it meant hit me.
No, we killed we need
and
to...
And while all that excitement was building up into me, we immediately went into the Ifrit versus Garuda battle. And I was speechless. My hair was all up. I was in so many different emotional states, I didn't know what to make of it. It was unreal. The Eikon battles is the greatest single thing that Square Enix has ever made. The deliverance of learning he is Ifrit, going into that Eikon battle, was the greatest experience I had ever had in the franchise to that point.
Is this one of the greatest Final Fantasy games ever made?
Until you get to the other Eikon battles later on, and they just keep getting better and better. It's done so fucking well, it's unreal. I'm still mind blown just thinking about them now. The Titan one is my favorite. That was just epic beyond epic. And even just the regular battles, I love everything they did about it. The battle music also gives me nostalgia because it is most definitely inspired by Final Fantasy VIII battle music. You hear it at the start. When it comes to level up and choosing abilities, it's simple. Yeah, you don't get the complexity of VII's materia system. With VII, the amount of different playstyles you can do due to the character you choose, weapon, and materia is grand. And I learned I prefer 16s. You can choose your abilities based on your preferred playstyle, while not having to worry about things like weaknesses and such. I prefer an action-oriented RPG that it doesn't really matter which abilities you pick, over one that you would have to strategize more on the abilities you choose due to the upcoming fight. Because I am getting annoyed at how many times I decide someone is going to be a support, magic caster, melee damage, and rebirth, and then 10 minutes later, you are forced into a different party and have to set everything up all over again. With 16, you can select your abilities and play for hours without having to think about it. So 16, the best battle system for me yet. Not only on the ability selection, but on the system itself and the visuals. The abilities are just so satisfying to watch. The cinematics, even just using your limit break. I love fighting in 16. It's satisfying. Back to Clive. He is the greatest main protagonist Square Enix has ever made. Hands down. I'll debate anyone and everyone until the end of time. I love that character. He is the GOAT! I want to compare him to who I thought were the best main protagonists in the franchise, Cloud and Tidus, and then explain why Clive simply trumps. Cloud because, well, it's Cloud. He was the main character of Final Fantasy VII. Like, look at the fight choreography of the movie. He's epic. His story is great of what happened to him. Even through all that PTSD, he still fights for the world and the people he loves. Even though he has a hard time showing and accepting it, I always respected Cloud for what he stood for. Sure, he can sound mean and not interested. He just never learned how to express himself with others. In the end, you know that is simply not how he actually feels.
But here's the thing. I don't work for free. Or cheap.
But we don't have any money!
I'll do it for 3 gil.
Huh?
I'm offering a special discount right now on Toad King jobs. Looks like it's your lucky day.
So Cloud, great guy, a friend you can depend on, but not a great leader. Tidus, though, I thought he was the best main protagonist Square Enix made. Not my favorite, oh no. But I can respect in the knowledge that he was the best. Let me explain. He is the most relatable character. Other than he is a pro athlete, you could replace him with literally anyone. He could be any of us. He gets teleported into a world he knows absolutely nothing about. He knows nothing about the Summoner's Pilgrimage and what it ultimately leads to. He knows nothing about the culture of the world, etc. Who else is in the same boat as him? All of us. The first time that you play or watch Final Fantasy X, when something drastic happens and Tidus is shocked, you are also shocked. When he learns something new, which is all of the time, you also learn something new. And this is why Final Fantasy X was always the one I would recommend for new players. It is a great way to see Square Enix's storytelling. However, if they prefer action RPG over turn-based, I now have to recommend 16. Personality-wise, no, he's not the best. He's immature. He is still overall a great character. It's that relatability to the unknown that makes him so enticing, and that you could literally put yourself in his shoes. Clive, his character development is amazing. The point of the story that made me fall in love with the character was when he accepts that he is Ifrit. He accepts what he did, and he wants to atone. The level of maturity and resolve you see in that guy is unreal. So, he joins Sid on his quest to free the bearers and make everyone equal. He's not looking for revenge on the people who made the bearers suffer. He simply wants to find true peace between everyone and freedom. The amount of good values oozing out of this guy is unreal. After Sid's death, he becomes the leader of the Hideaway. He is one of the greatest leaders in the franchise. He literally goes out of his way to help others, even for mundane things, to take care of them and make sure that their home is safe, or has the necessary provisions for them to live. He tries to bring everyone together in their shared vision of the future and protect those that need protection. And he succeeds a lot of the time. He doesn't convince everyone, especially the very fearful bearers. He is one of the most selfless characters out there. What makes him such a great leader over everything I've just mentioned is his remarkable maturity and wisdom. He's a person you want to be friends with, you want to follow, and you want to become when you grow up.
And that is where we are different. I could not have made it here on my own. I carry with me the hopes and dreams of my brothers, my sisters.
His values and morals are inspiring. To be fair, you do see his character development over an 18-year span, so we've been given a long time story-wise to see his growth. Compared to Cloud, 7 starts like less than a week after he comes out of his 5-year coma, sees his friend Zack dying next to him. The last thing he remembers is probably his entire hometown burned down and everyone there, including his mother, killed. And then he's injected with all this fuckery from Hojo. He sees and hears things. Like, dude's got PTSD up the wazoo. And it's only at the end of Advent Children that you see he starts to become okay.
You see, everything's all right.
So it's not fair to Cloud's story that we comparing to Clive character development, because who knows who Cloud would have become in his 30s. But who cares? Square Enix gave us that for Clive and not Cloud. So for Cloud, at this point, it's just what ifs and fan theories for who he would have become in his 30s. Whereas for Clive, we saw it. And that's part of the amazing story we got for 16. And talking about characters, the other cast of 16. It is the first time that I have ever felt so strongly that this is a big and strong community of people. The whole of the Hideaway and all of the other towns being connected to one another on a similar vision of a better future. You could link all of them together to some extent, and I have never seen that in any other Final Fantasy games. Even when you leave for Origin and you say your final goodbye, they are all there, just strengthening my thoughts on that matter. I'm not saying 16 is the only one that has this. It is definitely the strongest in that category. Another thing I love about 16's story is its level of maturity. It's a dark story. And I can't think of a moment where I cringed because someone was acting like an annoying kid. I'm not saying that kids are annoying in general, you know what I mean. When a grown-ass adult acts like a kid. Like in 7 now, in the remake and rebirth, you can tell that there's a lot of immaturity in the game. Like Johnny, Yuffie, for example. And you just don't see that in 16 at all. And I appreciate that. It really feels like a story for adults. Like adding the bearers to the story and seeing how shitflies are probably treated better than them makes you want to help them that much more. And it sucks you right into the story. You want Cid's vision to succeed. When you go to the orphanage in Ash for the side quest to get the registry, and you start reading it, and you see all these kids around 10 years of age, the same age as my daughter, dying simply for being a bearer, my heart was sinking. The level of storytelling we get from this to make us realize how evil and just fucked up this world is incredible. If I am to say something negative about the story, is that I felt there were sometimes too many things that was happening that was not really part of the main story, but it did eventually lead to what ultimately was the whole point of the story. And that's the main antagonist, Ultima. Before you know of his goal, the enemies feels like they're just there for the sake of being there. Benedicta we fought her, she was just at the wrong place at the wrong time because we were looking for the Dominant Fire. Hugo jumped on us because we killed Benedicta. It felt just like random enemies for the sake of having enemies in the story. Like after the acceptance of you being Ifrit and then chasing the Dominant Fire is no longer Clive's main goal, it becomes saving the bearers. And it's only really close to the end of the game that you learn that everything was pretty much manipulated for Ultima and his goals. So the best main antagonist, Sephiroth still wins. Because Sephiroth is a build-up from start to finish. You know of his goal, you know your goal, to stop him. Your venture is to reach him and stop him. And you get twists in the story itself that keeps it interesting. So from the start, you just know that Sephiroth is a big threat, and that just makes you feel more important to stop him. Whereas Ultima, you don't really know that until you know of his actual plans at the very end. However, Ultima is by far the best final boss they have ever made. No contest. I got so emotional in the last quest, Origin. While editing, I needed to put my own tribute in it to show my appreciation and gratitude to this game. While deciding and looking for which clips I was going to use, while seeing my reactions during the entirety of the Origin quest and re-experiencing it all, I was in tears the whole day working on that edit. I probably used half a box of tissues. No other games got me that emotionally involved in its story. Not to that extent. The only other game, which was a Final Fantasy game that made me cry, was 10, and 16 trumps over it. That ending speech with Ultima?
We fight. We survive. We endure. We don't need a reason. We are imperfect creatures. When we stumble, we reach for a shoulder to lean on. When we fall, we stand back up.
That is one of the best lines that we've ever gotten from any character in any Final Fantasy games. And sure, it was not the ending we probably wanted. I can't deny how amazing it was from a storytelling perspective. Ultima felt like unnecessary to the story, but the final stretch made it all worthwhile. There's one last thing I want to talk about. Something that makes everything else I've talked about so far so much better, so much more powerful. The music. Like, this game has one of the best soundtracks they have ever made. I could go on for hours dissecting every song to every part of the story, but for the sake of time, I'm only gonna give a few examples. They created the music to fit in emotions so damn well. It's unreal. Even when it's a very simple piece that sounds like one long ass note, like when you go past Northreach for the first time into the Royal Meadows, it's dreary. It gives you such a bad vibe. And then you go do two very awful side quests where bearers are brutally murdered or just dead, making the music fit so damn well. You also get a lot of different versions of like Cid's themes, for example. 5 years after, when you see Clive reveal he has Ramu powers, the wall of memories, just seeing the trinkets, reading them, the music playing just deepens your feelings towards them. Like, this game creates familiarity. Familiarity. Is that how you say that word? That's a tough word for me. I'm French! But yeah, it creates familiarity with characters and events so goddamn well. They use leitmotifs like masters. Like, a song that comes in Final Fantasy games, except 8, I think, is the Prelude. And in 16, on the main menu, and as you progress throughout the story, you hear it, and it sounds dark, it sounds chaotic, very different from what we're used to. It's usually soothing. Let me talk about my philosophies for a bit. I am going somewhere with this. I promise. If you were to ask me in one word, what is freedom? I would have to say peace. When you are able to find true freedom, and I mean true freedom, that you are so much at peace with yourself that you are not bothered and you can respect other people's freedoms and their beliefs and their culture, and you both tolerate that, and you really believe in freedom for all, you find peace between everyone. And I would go even more further than that. When you find freedom in your emotions, your feelings, like your fears, your joys, when events that are happening around you don't control you, when you can choose that something makes you upset, happy, sad, neutral, when you have that level of control over your mind, you find true peace within. So for me, finding freedom means finding peace. And what is this game about? Finding freedom for everyone. And so finding peace for everyone. And how do they do this? By shattering the mother crystals. And what do you get when they shatter mother crystal? one of the most peaceful and serene versions of the prelude I've ever heard. For a game that is heavily action-oriented, dark, sad, you just get hit with one of these most beautiful versions of the prelude ever. Every time it cued, I just couldn't help but be teary. Because of how I think, my values, my personality, just connected deeply with the presentation of the song When You Destroy Mother Crystal. Now, what is one of the best songs of the game that is so potent?
He's always been one of the strongest summons and shit like that, right? Holy fuck.
I'll come back for you.
Man, this is fucking. Oh yeah! Oh, fucking right! Let's fucking go! Oh!
You know what I'm talking about. The song always has many different versions. It is so powerful, I need to explain why. The first time you hear this song is at the very beginning, when you are fighting Ifrit as the Phoenix. I didn't really pay much attention to it, as nothing was really familiar to me at this point. I was only 10 minutes into the game, so I was focused on the battle. You hear it again during the conversation between Joshua and Clive as brothers when they are young, and a few other times after that. You hear the full version of Wade during the actual Ifrit versus Phoenix fight, and it's just majestic. However, I haven't made the connection to it all yet. I only gain an emotional connection to it during the scene you see Joshua as a kid, and you accept who you are as Ifrit. The amount of grief you see Clive go through during that scene resonated with me, and the female vocals just hit me hard. It is so good. So that made me remember that scene deeply, but I still haven't made the connection the other times that song was used, that it was just another version of Away. Fast forward to the Behemoth fight, you haven't really heard that song that much since then, but then you play as Joshua, as the Phoenix again. I was so concentrating on just how epic the battle and all of that was happening that I wasn't really listening to the song that was playing until the female vocals started.
Oh, the music! Oh, I just realized it's fucking Joshua! Oh, this is epic.
The vocals were one of the moments that I really grasped throughout the story. Throughout the game, I would remember that scene, that song, seeing Clive so hurt and ashamed of what he did. It hit me really hard, like it was so good. So when I heard the female vocals, it all came back to me. That reaction there might seem like it was just me being in awe of the song. It was, and it was way more than that as well. When those vocals started, what came to my mind was how epic what was currently happening. Then it immediately hit me, and I remembered all of the previous scenes when we accepted who we were, the Ifrit versus Phoenix battle, the entire story, everything that has happened so far, just how majestic everything about this game is. The characters, Sid, Mid, everyone at the hideaway, that Clive and Joshua are finally reunited and are fighting together as brothers. It was a surge of all the emotions I experienced throughout the entirety of the game so far. What you see first, yes, is the excitement of how awesome the current battle and song are. And then it switches to just pure awe, when all of my thoughts go to everything that has happened so far, all my emotions, all my memories and thoughts for this game in a single moment. I'm left speechless. And while I'm still through all of this excitement, we get hit with the reveal of Ifrit risen and that part of the fight. And again, with a powerful song. Yes, other Final Fantasy games has amazing music. Final Fantasy as a whole, music is on a whole other level. Absolutely no other Final Fantasy games, or other games actually, has been able to hit me this hard emotionally to get me so involved with the characters and the story and the world. It's unbelievable. The way the music intertwines with the storytelling, the characters, the events, the locations, just make me fall in love with every aspect of this game. It's an emotional experience on a whole other level. I'm currently still trying to go through Rebirth from the making of this video. And I'm about to give up on the game. I gave Remake a 9 out of 10. And I think Rebirth is a complete flop. I'm saying this because Rebirth was Square Enix's chance to convert me back to Final Fantasy VII being my favorite of all time, and they are failing miserably at it. So when you consider everything, the storytelling, the characters, the battle system, the music, on how it all connected to me on such a deep emotional level, I can finally say that after 26 years, a hero has been surpassed and a new champion has emerged. Thanks for watching.